So today, lads, we're going to be talking a little bit about Azzi Fudd, who has had a little bit of a reputation at times, and I think wrongly has had a reputation of being a front runner, only good because she's at UConn, doesn't step up in big games. I don't think that reputation is fair, by the way. But that has been the reputation at times with, not specifically Azzi Fudd, just with UConn players. A lot of people believe UConn players are overrated because of the system. And there is obviously the one player.
The draft board just flipped and the shockwaves are hitting stores like a ton of bricks. Azzi Fudd, the once untouchable golden girl of UConn, just saw her name slide into a territory nobody thought possible. Caitlin Clark didn't just break records. She shattered the long-standing illusion that being a Husky makes you the automatic number one pick by default. The scouts are whispering. The data is leaking, and reality is hitting like a freight train in the middle of the night. Azzi is an absolute shock as new projections show her plummeting out of that top spot she has held in her mind since high school. It is a cold-blooded realization that the system might have been hiding her flaws all along, and now the WNBA isn't buying the hype anymore.
Recruit went to UConn, won a national title, made 2 more All-American teams than Azzi, was the 2-time AAC Player of the Year. And we're talking about Katie Lou Samuelson, who for her WNBA career, who had 4.3 points per game for the Fever. But if you look at Katie Lou Samuelson, at UConn, Katie Lou averaged 20 points per game as a sophomore. Undefeated. Yes, I understand they lost because of the shot from Enrique. Undefeated regular season. 20 points per game as a sophomore. 17.4 points per game as a junior. 18.5.
The narrative was simple. You go to UConn, you win national titles, and you go number 1 overall. But the UConn tax is finally being audited by the league's top executives. Critics are starting to claim that players like Azzi are essentially front-runners who only look elite because of machines surrounding them. There is a growing dangerous sentiment that she does not step up when the lights are at their brightest, and that her reputation is built on a foundation of system play rather than raw individual dominance. It is a harsh assessment for a player who was once considered the most sure thing in the entire country. But the numbers are starting to tell a much different story than the media highlights.
Lost in 4 years in college. It's not funny. And we're watching her show no ability to create her own shot whatsoever. Absolutely no ability whatsoever. She has nothing in terms of shot creating. She has nothing. She cannot create her own shot at the pro level. She struggles at the collegiate level to create her own shot. She is a sniper, an absolute sniper. But
you look at the actual production. The comparison currently terrifying draft rooms involves KDL Samuelson. Remember her? She was a number 1 recruit, a UConn legend, and a 2-time All-American who put up monster numbers during her collegiate tenure. She averaged 20 points a game on undefeated teams and seemed destined for superstardom. But when she hit the WNBA, that production evaporated almost overnight. She became a role player, a 10-point per game scorer at her absolute peak before disappearing into rotation. Scouts are looking at Azzi's career average of 13 points and wondering if they are watching a sequel they have already seen before. And the ending isn't pretty.
I don't think she's scared of the bright lights. I think she steps up in big games. I think she hits big shots. But is it crazy to say that I think she projects to be an elite 5th starter? An elite, a player that you think, damn, this player is going to be absolutely elite if we can get her on a good contract. One of those players where if she's on a mid-level deal, you're we've gotten a steal. I don't know if you take that player at number 1. I just don't. And look, maybe I'm wrong. And I kind of hope I'm wrong because she seems like a good person overall. She seems like a good person.
The terrifying part of this analysis is that Katie Lou actually had much better counting stats in college than Azzi does right now. Katie Lou was a walking bucket on teams that did not lose a single regular season game for years. Azzi, meanwhile, has struggled with nagging injuries and has not shown that same level of statistical dominance against top-tier competition. If the self-proclaimed best shooter ever cannot outproduce someone who eventually became a mid-tier pro, Where does that leave AZ's ceiling? The draft board isn't just a list of names. It is a reflection of professional fear. And right now, the fear is that AZ's floor is much lower than any...
I'd be all for it. But when we're talking about the number one pick conversation, maybe it's a little bit different because there's no page in this year's draft. And like, this is very clearly going to stop the run of, like, if you take out, I'm just trying to think off the top of my head, like, if you take out, oh my God, I'm just trying to think, fuck. If you take out Charlie Collier, you've got, was Angel McCoughtry the number one pick? There's been no misses at number one other than Charlie. Yeah.
Let's talk about the one thing that kills a prospect's draft stock faster than anything else. The lack of shot creation. In the WNBA, if you cannot get your own bucket, you are at the total mercy of your point guard. Analysts are watching the tape and seeing zero ability from AZ to create her own shot at an elite level. She is a world-class sniper, no doubt about it, but she is a catch-and-hit specialist in a league that increasingly demands offensive engines. If a pro defender stays attached to her hip and denies the open look, she effectively disappears from a game. That is simply not what you want from a number one pick when there are playmakers...
Full-time all-star, one of the best players in the league, outside of Chennai. And, like, she might end up, when it's all said and done, being the worst number one overall pick. Not the worst non-Charlie Collier number one overall pick in 20 years. And I don't know if that's what you take. I don't know if you're Dallas Wings, do you take the safe option number one when Awa's right there? And the fact is that Awa could be Busty McBusterson. Like, she could be the biggest bust ever, but the potential is there. The potential is there. And I don't see a...
People love to compare her to Kayla McBride, but that comparison is becoming a massive, unrealistic stretch. McBride is an aggressive driver who can break down a defense, get to rim, and draw fouls at will. AZ's play style is fundamentally passive by comparison. She is not necessarily scared of the big moments, and she definitely hits big shots when she is open, but she does not dictate the pace of the game herself. She waits for the game to come to her, within the flow of the offense. In a draft class headlined by Caitlin Clark, a woman who creates high-level offense out of thin air, AZ's reliance on a perfect system looks more...
Like, AZ's really, really good. But if we're being real here, is Azzi Fudd, does she have the least bust potential in this draft? Yeah. Yeah. Does Azzi Fudd have the star potential of Awa? No. Does she have the star potential of Miles? No. Does she have the star potential of Flau'jae? No. Does she even have the star potential of... Does she have the upside of Lauren Betts if it all works out for Lauren Betts? No. Even though I would take her over Lauren Betts. Does she have the upside of Flau'jae? No. Does she have the upside of Iana Martine? No. Does she have the upside of...
If she isn't the next McBride, then who exactly is she? The name being whispered in the shadows now is Sammy Whitcomb. Now, do not get it wrong. Sammy is a champion and an elite shooter who can light it up for 30 points on any given night. But Sammy Whitcomb was never a number one pick. She is an elite fifth starter. She is a piece you add to a championship roster to put them over the top, not the player you build a franchise around from scratch. Taking an elite fifth starter at number one overall is the exact kind of move that gets general managers fired and fan bases revolting. The new draft board reflects this harsh reality, leaving AZ on the outside looking in.
No. She's the highest floor. And this might be the Zachary Risachet of number one overall picks. When they looked and said, who are we very sure is going to at least be an impactful player for our team? This could be the Zachary Risachet of number one overall picks. So anyway, yeah, I'll see you guys.
Think about the legendary lineage of the number one pick. We are talking about icons like Candace Parker, Maya Moore, Breanna Stewart, and Ozza Wilson. These are Hall of Famers who changed the geometry of the court the second they stepped onto it. Aside from a few major outliers, the top pick is reserved for generational icons who sell tickets and win MVPs. If AZ goes number one, she risks being the least impactful top pick in over 20 years. She might be considered safe, But safe does not win you championships in a league that is rapidly expanding and getting more athletic every single day. The board is shifting because the era of safe picks is officially over. The draft board is shifting because teams are looking for star potential, and Azzi's upside suddenly seems capped. Does she have the ceiling of a Flo Johnson? Probably not. Does she have the explosive playmaking of a Raven Johnson or the raw physical dominance of new wave of forwards? Not even close. She is being described by some as the Zachary Rozier of the WNBA, a player who is almost guaranteed to be a solid contributor, but lacks the elusive it factor to ever become the face of the league. That realization is what has Azzi and her entire camp in total shock as they watch her name drop below players with much higher athletic ceilings. The Caitlin Clark effect has changed the evaluation criteria for women's basketball forever. Before Caitlin, being a great shooter at a school like UConn was enough to secure your future. Now you have to be a logo range threat who can also pass like a wizard and handle the ball under extreme pressure. Caitlin showed the world that a number one pick should be able to carry a mediocre roster all the way to the finish line. Azzi has never had to do that in her life. She has always been surrounded by elite talent and a legendary coaching staff. The question remains, what happens when she is on a struggling WNBA team with absolutely no help around her? There's a world where Azzi becomes a multi-time All-Star, but that world requires a very specific set of circumstances to occur. She needs to be drafted by a team that already has a dominant post presence and a pass first point guard to set her up if she goes to a team like the Dallas Wings at number one. She is expected to be the savior of the franchise. But if she cannot beat a professional defender off the dribble, she is just an expensive floor spacer. The gap between her current media hype and her projected professional utility is starting to look like a canyon that teams are afraid to cross. The draft board is merely reflecting the data. Look at the sheer volume of versatile talent coming up in the ranks behind her. Players with massive length, high-end speed, and the ability to play multiple positions are leapfrogging the traditional specialist. In today's game, being a plus defender and a good teammate is the baseline requirement, not the main selling point for a top 3 pick. The draft board is now rewarding high-risk, high-reward players because the league is desperate for superstars who can move the needle. Azzi is the ultimate high-floor player. But in a draft as deep and talented, a high floor feels like a consolation prize rather than a winning lottery ticket for a struggling team. The injury history is the silent killer in all of these draft evaluations. You could be the most talented shooter in the entire world, but if you are not on the court, you are a wasted asset for the organization. Azzi has missed significant time during her college career, and those crucial years of development are gone forever. While her peers were getting game reps and refining their ball handling, she was stuck in rehab. This isn't just about her shooting ability. It is about her availability and whether her body can handle the brutal 40-game grind of a professional season. Teams are terrified of drafting a bust, and injuries remain the biggest red flag. It is not just about the statistics on a page. It is about the eye test against pro-level athletes. When scouts watch Azzi, they see someone who occasionally struggles when the game gets overly physical. If you bump her off her favorite spot, her efficiency drops significantly. If you double-team her, she does not yet have the court vision to punish you with a skip pass. She is a refined, polished product, but the pros want a raw diamond they can carve into a supernova. Azzi feels like she might have already reached her peak, and that peak might not be high enough to justify the top spot in a class filled with explosive athletes and playmakers. The Dallas Wings are in a precarious position with the upcoming draft. Do they take the safe route with Azzi, knowing she will likely be a 10-year pro